Good day everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a manga that ended this year called Witchcraftworks. This was a manga that was ongoing for 12 years off and on. The writer had some medical issues, I believe, at some point. I believe they also had a child at one point, which stopped the writing of this manga. Now, this is a manga that I followed for quite a while actually, and there was an anime series that was okay. It was okay. That's the best way I can describe it. But we're talking about the manga mainly here, not the anime. So what was it about? Well, it was a battle seinen manga where you have the male and female characters in a rather swapped position. You have a strong female character who has a lot of power, and a male character who basically in the beginning has none, but later on in the story you find out that he has powers that have been sealed because he contains the spirit of a great witch called Evermillion. And now Evermillion is an interesting character in her own right, and to be honest she deserves her own video where I could go into it. Witchcraftworks was one of those ones that I got quite into for a while, and when it ended I basically binged the rest of it, and that was it. So it ended in February, but it's taken a while to decompress the ending because the ending was kind of like things go on, the story just continues. Evermillion's still present within Honoka. Kagari's still Kagari. Her mother, or her adopted mother, is still that fiery delinquent individual. Qualmare Swartz is sort of like her friend who was an enemy, and there's a very few other characters such as there's Weekend, who appears at one point again, who once was a villain but now she's a good guy, and there's also weird bits and pieces with other characters who were villains but got turned into good people. Medusa also was a character who got redeemed about halfway through, towards the end of the manga. She basically gets completely cured from her condition and stops being evil because of Honoka. The manga itself was written by Ryū Mizunagi and it was published by Kodansha in their Good Afternoon magazine. Again, there was a lot of stops in the manga where the author would either be sick, have a child, or other things would happen. They would basically be hand drawing this themselves. I believe they were mangaka that were hand drawing on paper, and then the papers had to be scanned into the machine and they had to be edited a bit that way. That's why I believe it took a long time to do chapters. I think there was an interview with her at one point where she basically was like, I'm a traditional artist and this is how I do it, which was really interesting, I believe, because a lot of mangaka have gone on to digital. Some do still do traditional animes where they'll do preliminary works but then go on to digital, but I believe this was completely done on paper right up until at least the 7th or 8th volume, so it was quite a while that it was continuing in paper version. As I said, this went on for 12 years with some long hiatuses. I believe the longest one was basically a year and a half maybe, but they never lost their passion for the manga, and it's very evident because there is very little character change from the beginning, in designs, to the end. Kagari gets a bit more emotional at some points, but she's still basically the same character all the way through. Takeya is kind of the same character all the way through, but you can see him accepting the Evermillion and various other things around them. The other characters I want to talk about are the Tower Witches. Now, there was Tanpampo Kuroashi, who was like a cat girl kind of thing, who has a rivalry with Honoka's actual sister, who is a bit of a yandere in some regards, Kasumi Takayama. Kasumi is rather cliche though because she's a brocon, and it's very evident throughout the manga, and a lot of her jokes, a lot of her arcs revolve around her affection for her brother in a rather bizarre way. It never goes beyond like really idiotic stuff like making him play games for her, making him go out and get pudding for her, stuff like that. It's rather mute compared to other ones, but it's still a bit weird in some regards. There is a few other Tower Witches really that I can talk about, but Tanpampo is probably the best one. The others are rather just henchmen, and then Evermillion, of course, is the witch inside Tamiya. The Tower Witches are a bit weird because they don't follow laws like the other witches or the workshop witches, who basically maintain the balance between normal people and witchcraft. I think that a lot of it really boils down to rather battle manga. It's rather battle archy, and while I'm not a big fan of battle arcs, the way it's done is it doesn't go from one battle arc to another to another to another. There is some break and there is some humour in between those battle arcs, so it's not as overwhelming as, say, Demon Slayer, where the last few chapters were just a continuous battle arc, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, which I think was very draining for me, to be honest. I mean, it was alright, but I prefer this sort of style where there's a definite break, there's some humour, there's some little side stories, and then we continue with the actual plot. So yeah, so that was Witchcraftworks, and would I recommend it to people? Probably, maybe. I mean, if you're invested in it already, maybe finish it. But I don't know if I could say, if you hadn't read it before, to go and read it, because the ending is rather open-ended, and in some ways that's good, and in some ways that's bad. So it's really on the fence. If you like your battle mangas, but you like your strong female characters, yeah, it's worth reading. If you like your battle mangas and want something more like My Hero Academia or Dragon Ball Z or something like that, no, you won't like it. No, you won't like it at all. But that's really all I can say about it. It's one that I said that I'd watched for a while, so how do I feel that it's ended? Okay, I hope that the next work by Ryū Mizunagi is a bit different. I would hope to see some more of the comedy elements put, because she's really good at writing comedy, and I think those were the best chapters, the comedy chapters, even though a lot of them revolved around Takumiya's sister, but they were still amusing, because sometimes you'd get like Tampapo, the cat girl, who was a Tao witch. They would have like a silly like stuffed bear versus rabbit fight in the middle of the town, and that was amusing. I believe there was they did that for an OVA, but it was fun anyway. So that's all my thoughts on Witchcraftworks, and yeah, it ended in February. It ran for 12 years, so it was quite a long one. Thank you all for watching. I've been Trix, you've been you. I'd like to thank everyone who watches this channel, and I'd like to thank everyone if this is your first video. Maybe I've brought a new series to your attention, maybe I've talked about games that you like. So thank you all for your time. I'm Trix, of course, and that's been another manga kind of sort of review, sort of look-see at something that's ended. Bye bye.